What's up, Blueprint family? Thank you all for coming out tonight. Thank you all for putting up with our cancellations. Had some things that were going on, and tonight we are back.
Yes, and I do want to say I'm glad you're here with us because we had a slight accident. So, regardless of all of that, I am glad we're here. You're here. We're here together because life is valuable, way more valuable than anything else. And certainly, of course,
Yep.
the battery is right there. So, tonight's topic: what to do when you want more from your long term relationship. Now, this is coming from a great question that we're going to get into. So, I'm going to go ahead and pull this up on the screen. Here we go. This is a great question. I think a very common question. So, it's going to be helpful, I'm sure, for a lot of people. First, we're going to get started with the question. So, subject: I want more from my relationship. I have been dealing with my man for 8.5 years. We're great together and we understand each other and generally have no issues. We also barely ever fight. Lately, I moved to the other side of the city on my own this year. He lives with his parents about a 45-minute drive away. We went from seeing each other almost every day to now only seeing him on the weekends. We alternate. One weekend he's by me and the other I go stay at parents' house. I miss him greatly and I'm an introvert, so generally I'm okay with being alone, but knowing he could be with me and he's not doing all he can to try and be with me is causing me to feel alone and breaking me as time goes on. I love him so much, he's my everything, but I resent him so much, it practically makes me hate him. I hate that I've moved for work, moved away from him while he's jobless and puts his family ahead of me. I don't want his money, I just want his time and commitment. I gave him an ultimatum. One, spend most weekends by me. I shouldn't have to head to his house as often as I do. Two, marry me so I have some comfort when I'm not with him. And three, I break up with him. His responses were: one, he's got too much to do and to come home to my side more often. I understand his dad works overseas, so someone needs to be there for his mom and see to the house. I get that. But he's also has an unemployed brother who also lives there and he can do the same. He's not ready financially, was the second one, and it will slowly sink us if we do. I get that, but I have an okay job that I can hold us together for now. He is a martial art instructor, so he can easily move to find work near me. Maybe this is a bigger deal for men than I understand, so I'm willing to take a loss at this point. And three, I'm being unreasonable because we are great together and I simply don't understand his love language. He's always shown me appreciation all the time, but I just don't see it. I don't want to break up, and it's so difficult to let go, especially since he is extremely kind and loves me greatly. I get that he absolutely adores me. I just wish he could stop keeping me at arm's length, but also can't tell if I'm being clingy and asking for too much. Ooh, wow. That was a lot from that question. This is also why it's super important to have the conversation about your expectations.
Before marriage.
Yeah, and the progression, what that should look like in your eyes for you to feel like, that's you're actually moving further and along and progressing in the relationship. Because if you don't have those progression goals set in place, how are you going to track whether or not you're on track within your relationship? For example, 8.5 years and you guys still aren't living together, or at least, living together, bare minimum, but at least engaged, actively planning on what your life is going to look like together, combining your lives. 8.5 years is a long time.
Yeah, you should be engaged between 2 to 3 years of being together first. They're not even moved in together.
Yeah. And that's actually scientific. what you were saying.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, that what you were saying, just some validity to it. A 2019 survey from the Pew Research Center had found that the average length of time that couples usually get married was about 2.9 years. So almost 3 years.
I mean, but that's just common
No,
sense. Like, how
yeah.
long do you need to live with somebody to know whether you're going to live with them or either kick them to the curb? So this woman, she's she chose this man. This man isn't choosing her. That's what the situation is. The fact of the matter is that they're together for 8 years.
Yeah.
And they're playing this thing where they move on the weekends to be close to each other, and then when the weekend is over, whatever the case may be, they go back home somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Just live together so you can cut that down. But the
Right.
problem is that he obviously doesn't want to live with you. For 8 years he doesn't want to live with you, ma'am. But for some reason he hasn't had the guts to tell you that. Also too, keep moving, keep going forward. See if we can see some more red flags. Love him so much.
Well, right here, but knowing he could be with me and he's not doing all he can to try to be with me. Yeah.
Yes. So you've played yourself for 8 years thinking that this guy wants to be with you, and you said it yourself, is that he's not even trying to be with you. And you know what that looks like, ladies. If a man really wants to be with you, he's going to show that he's your provider and your protector. This guy that she's speaking of, from what I understand, is she says sometimes he's jobless. While he's jobless and put his family ahead of me. Yes, that's easy because you know why? His family is taking care of him. So he has an obligation to his family if he wants a roof over his head. And then she talks about
she gave him the ultimatum.
No, didn't he go back and he watches after the home and the mother while the father's overseas working. The thing is this: the mother can take care of herself. I don't know, but she may have some sort of medical condition where she can't be alone. That may be the case. But you also state that there's a 24-year-old brother there. The 24-year-old brother can watch the mother if that is the case. So there again, he's not trying to live with you.
Yeah.
That is just the reality of the situation. Those are two examples of him not trying to be a man and step up and want to live with you. Ladies, pay attention to that, because a lot of you all do mess with men who don't want to marry you or let alone be with you, but they will drag you along and give you all of these excuses on why they can't spend the rest of their lives with you. And what happened is that you end up like this woman in a situationship for 8 years without any commitments, and you're just waiting.
Yeah.
You're just waiting.
Yeah, he sounds like a procrastinator kind of. And that can show through in a relationship as, not coming through with having commitments, making decisions, having goals, not sticking to the time that you guys are, planning, stuff like that. So maybe a procrastination issue. You gave him the ultimatums: spend most weekends by you or marry you. Oh, here's one I did want to address: marry me so I can have some comfort when I'm not with him. Ma'am, marrying you is not going to give you that comfort. Comfort first comes from within. That is a place of being that you have to first be able to establish on your own. And the beauty part of a relationship is that if you truly felt comfortable within your relationship, you would feel this now.
I think
you would feel that.
I think it's another type of comfort. What she means is that marry me so that I know that you're not cheating on me. That's what she's trying to say.
Yeah, but you would feel that if it was a legit relationship where she was already getting those things. Marrying her isn't going to give, it's not going to give, a piece of paper isn't going to give you those things.
No, it's not.
We're going to address those within this for sure, some ways to move the relationship forward, but just the paper isn't going to give you those things. Like, that comfort is really something that's going to have to be established within the relationship already, first within yourself. And then that you will come like comfort.
That would be that long distance marriage that we were talking about, long distance relationships.
Yeah.
This is what happens too. So, pay attention to those people who are in long distance relationships for multiple years.
Yeah.
Spending time. She said, number one, spend time
Yeah.
Spend
Spend
most
most
weekends
weekends.
by
Yeah.
me.
Marry her so she can have some comfort. Or 3, she'll break up with him. That was her ultimatums of what was going to happen. We've already went over. Don't do the
I
ultimatums.
honestly don't believe that she's gonna break up with him because she stood by this man for over
Oh,
8
8
years
years.
without any commitments.
Yeah. Right. And so we will address again. These are your ultimatums. And we have some ways that, okay, if this is what it really is, and you're dealing with the part you don't want to break up with him, but you may have to. We're going to be very realistic because this is 8 years we're talking about.
Let's go on to see about his responses. His
Yeah.
responses, he said that it's too much to do at home. So she's not a priority.
Right.
Next was number two.
Oh, that was the part that you're talking about with his dad being overseas.
Yeah.
And someone needs to be there for his mom to see at the house. That is also your father's responsibility, I think, to make sure that his wife is being taken care of.
Yes, but he
while
also
he's
has a
away
brother that
from
lives
the-
there that can
Right.
do that. A 24-year-old brother.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Like I said, she is not a priority in
yeah.
his life.
Yeah. And you've established that for, I think that's important to note because you have established that for 8.5 years you've been in this relationship and he's not financially ready. And you have an okay job. So that means that you have pretty much been, she's pretty much been carrying the relationship for 8 years. Like she's just been.
She's been in this relationship by herself for 8 years. That's what this means. He's not ready financially and it was slow. And this is what he's saying.
Yeah.
Thank you for being honest.
Mm-hmm.
And not a lot of men are saying this. The thing is
Yeah.
this, he's telling her in all the kind ways that I don't want to be with you. And here are the reasons why. And he's stating some real valid points. And these are just going straight over her head for the past 8 years.
Well, partially because he's egging her on enough for her to still believe that, where was the part she says I get that he absolutely adores me.
How?
That's what I'm saying.
No, but where's
So
the egging at?
somewhere he's giving her some type of like, I don't know.
No, I think this lady is very delusional.
You think so?
Yes, because weekend rendezvous do not equivalent to an 8-year relationship.
Yeah.
If you calculate, if it seems like all they do is spend time with each other on the weekends for the past 8.5 years. If you
That's a
count
very
all that
valid
time
point.
up together, that doesn't equal up to 8 years. There's 52 weeks in a year, so basically there's 52 weekends in a year.
For, I guess, sake, she did say that she just moved. So they could have been near each other. Because what was it? She just moved. I'm trying to find it. Oh, yeah. I had that I moved for work and moved away from him. So because she had just put in there that, she just moved. So maybe. So maybe they were spending more time to each other. For the sake of that argument, I will give her some little credit on that. And we're just going to say maybe this is a real relationship and that it's not going anywhere. Hey, so, here are some steps. First off, if we go back to this beginning, like you were saying, his responses of not being financially ready, clearly y'all don't need to be in a relationship and he needs to be spending the time getting financially ready. Marriage fit requires that a man can prepare for a wife. And you can't just say you want a wife and you can't provide and protect for her.
Yeah, but does he really want a wife?
Right.
That's the thing. Also, too, because being a martial arts instructor alone is not going to, not unless he owns his own studio or some sort of side business along with the martial arts thing.
Yeah.
That possibly can get him there to the point to where he's able to provide it. Evidently, he's a protector. I mean, he's a martial arts instructor. I mean, damn, she got that part right. But as far as the finances, I think they both know that they're not there yet.
Right. And she said, I understand. So she's willing to take a loss at that point. Okay. So if you are, and I get that because she invested, if this is a true long term, she adores him, he adores her relationship, 8.5 years. You've invested a lot in this man. So I totally get that. You probably are willing to see how much more you can give. How healthy is that? I'm not quite sure because you aren't quite giving any signs that this isn't a relationship where you're unhappy. You're just, the relationship is just stagnant. And he's saying that you're being unreasonable because you guys are great together and that you simply don't understand his love language. Okay.
For 8 years? She don't understand his love language for 8 years. That was one of his excuses.
I felt like
Right. That's just, it's something else going on there that's just a cover up. So it's something else going on. The reason why he said that.
Because if you say he loves and adore you, like you say he does, here's some steps that you're going to want to take to move your relationship forward, period. Full disclosure though, to be honest, if he has no interest in these next steps that we're going to go over, which are very simple, and when you are in a relationship and you really adore and love somebody as much as you are saying that he does, these are the steps that have to be taken in order for you guys to progress within your relationship and not stay stagnant. Like 8.5 years, that is a long time to not really be going anywhere. So if he's not willing to take these steps, and I mean like fast, like you have to have this conversation like now, first off, fast, because if he's not willing to take this, then hey, you're probably wasting your time. And you don't want to waste any more, because 8.5 years is a long time. A long, long, long time. Well, do you want to start? Or you want me?
No, you go ahead. You got
okay. So this one would be first to have a serious conversation. First is conversation will be where you openly and honestly communicate with your spouse about your hopes and dreams for the future and how you guys are going to make this happen. So it's going to need questions like, what do you want to achieve together? These things have to be, you probably need a pen and a paper. Full disclosure, you guys need to sit this down. This is 8.5 years. This needs to be like a written out plan if he's serious about you. If he's not, friend, he won't want to do this, and he won't want to commit the time to having this conversation with you. So that's going to give you your telltale of whether or not this is even worth it. But, you know, for the sake of it is worth it, ask him what his individual goals are. This martial art thing is great. If this is going to, a passion that he has a business plan behind, how is this going to support a family? Is this even something that he wants? Is the family something that he wants? Is you guys being together, living together, progressing, having kids and stuff, something that he really wants? You guys have to talk about that. What are your hopes and dreams? You need to know that with him, because clearly, I don't know, somebody doesn't have a good understanding of those goals. But once you guys have that understanding, then you can move on to the next step, which would be to develop a plan to achieve them. But first, you have to come under common ground and figure out what are the goals that we both want in our life for it to be fulfilling.
Goals. You need to figure out whether, one, do you all want to get married, or do you all not want to be in a relationship? Two, do you all want to have children? And then 3, is he going to continue to be a martial arts instructor, or is he going to help elevate your career in somehow, some way? Be supportive.
And what that looks like sustained after kids.
Right.
That's a big one.
And then 4, what are you all going to do about retirement? Or either number 4, where are you all living? And then number 5, what are you all doing about retirement? Those should be the goals that you all are trying to figure out. Being the fact that, one, he doesn't make a lot of money. He needs to figure out some way on how is he going to contribute to the end goal of the relationship, which is retirement. Yeah. And
another question I thought of is, what do you want to achieve within the relationship? Because it kind of seems like y'all haven't even figured out, like within the relationship, what do you want to achieve? Like, what does that look like? Like, does he want a wife? Do they want an open relationship? Does he want to get married?
Well, that's why I said that's number 1.
And the retirement. No, I know. Yeah, but that's another way of phrasing that question. I'm just saying is, what does she want to achieve with this relationship? What are the specific deliverables that need to be made and need to take place in order for you to feel like the relationship is in a satisfying space for both of you? Because for 8.5 years, what may be satisfying for him, which is him living with his parents, him, helping his mom out, him doing these things for, that may not have been satisfying for you. 8.5 years is a long time for y'all not to have set that, standard. So what does this even relationship look to achieve? Does he even want to get married? Like, have you even had that conversation? I don't quite understand that one. Yeah. What you wanted the next part?
Yeah. What's next?
Oh, yep. So the next one would be once you have a clear understanding of your goals, then you can start to develop a plan to achieve your goals. So you want to make sure your goals are realistic and achievable. In particular, with him wanting to be a martial art, instructor. That's awesome. Maybe you guys can figure out a plan so that he can get his own studio, so that he can set up his finances, so that you then aren't having to be in such a financial position, and that maybe he can step up to that plate, especially if that's something that he is interested in doing. Again, this goes right back to how you guys have to have this conversation. What does it look like? Does he want to be the provider? Do you want to be the provider? Do you guys want to split it? How is this going to work for both of you guys? If y'all have never had this conversation, then yeah, you certainly end up in a relationship for 8.5 years and it's not gone anywhere. That's certainly how that happens.
Yeah, you do need to have some sort of realistic goals about each other and what your roles are,
Yeah.
and make sure that they're achievable. But the thing is that it seems as if that she's okay with this financial situation that he's in. Also,
Yeah.
too, how does he feel about that? Does he really wants to be the provider, and that's the reason why he's holding out on marriage, and he doesn't want to marry you because he knows that he can't provide for you?
Yeah, I think
And
so too.
and you all just really need to have that talk. I would encourage you all having that talk with some sort of third party person involved, so that if this man's been lying to you for the past 8 years,
Yeah.
someone else will be able to see that, because evidently you can't. If the fact that he's been lying to you for 8.5 years, you've been so naive to think that you were in a relationship with this man, and realistically you have not been.
Yeah. Yeah, because the relationship progresses, it moves forward, it doesn't stay the same. I think another aspect of if this guy kind of has a procrastination trait within him would be if he is not setting these goals with you, and certainly if he isn't looking to progress somehow, have some type of growth within the relationship. If you're okay with just staying stagnant, you may be procrastinating on some things that you could really improve on and help yourself, get better over time. But hey, if this is, again, something that you are willing to work on and you want to help your relationship improve, you definitely have to create then a relationship plan. So this is going to really include an outline of the steps that you guys have to take together in order to fulfill this life vision. If you come to him and you say, "Hey, I envision our life living in the hills, a nice house, 3 kids." If this is a good vision that he also sees, what is his salary going to look like? What is your salary going to need to look like? What are the housing prices? What are the things that you guys have to do? You need to get your credit together. There's steps that you guys have to take and develop, small, achievable goals that you can see the progress in what you're doing to get there. Start with building your credit. Start with maybe even getting a business line of credit for him and his martial arts studio to get some extra income coming in. Who knows? Like, you have to figure out the resources that are needed and come up with a plan to obtain these resources so that you can fulfill your goals. And it certainly applies within all goals, and especially a relationship.
Well said.
Yeah. Next, assign tasks and responsibilities, I think, would be a next one that I can really think is you guys haven't talked about task and roles and responsibilities at
Yeah,
all.
because I'm just thinking that she is just fine with just being married to him, so she might not even want to go that far as assigning roles and tasks. But
Yeah.
that is a realistic thing that you all need to discuss in your relationship, being the fact that you're breadwinning in the relationship. If do you want to have children? From what I
Mhm.
understand, these people are mid-30s, 30, early 30s, mid-30s. So, ma'am, you do have a situation to where you need to think about having children soon. And if that is the case, who's going to be home watching the children? And if not, um, what does daycare look like for you all as an option? Is that okay with you all? Understand that that's going to feed or take away rather into your finances. Are you all financially stable to be able to do these things moving
Mhm.
forward?
Yeah. And he did say he's not ready financially. So these are all things that, again, what we're simply outlining for all viewers that are watching is what to do when you want you want more from your relationship and you want to progress your relationship in a positive, fulfilling manner. In order to do this, there are steps that you have to be able to take. And if you can't take any of these steps, then, kind of got to step back and realize where you're at within your relationship. And especially if this is something you're wanting to put more time and effort in. 8.5 years is a long time. I just think within my mind as a woman and wanting to be a wife and wanting to have kids, there's no possible way that I could be stagnant within a relationship with a man for 8.5 years and not be like, what are we? What's going on?
Well, look, what type of women go through these type of situations?
I don't know.
You don't know? Women with not a lot of options.
You think? But she loves him and he loves her.
I'm talking about options, honey. Options. I'm not talking about love.
Well, I'm speculating too. I don't
If
know
she
that.
had other options or other men who were approaching her,
Yeah.
she would not be trying to entertain this man. That's just the reality of the situation. Is that not everybody have options in life. Some people have very few options. Some people have only one option, and evidently, her option is this one guy. And she's choosing her option. That's the thing. I don't know what this lady looks like. I don't know what her personality is like, but I'm pretty sure that has a lot to do with this situation that goes on here. She's already said she's an introvert, so she doesn't like to be social. She needs to do other things that will get her out of her shell to be more social and try to see if she can find someone who wants to marry her. That's one of her problems. That she stated that in the beginning of the letter. Because if all of that stuff you just said doesn't work, were you done with the list?
Mm-hmm.
If
Well,
all
no, kind of,
okay,
but no.
but if all of these things do not work for you, and you've when what you're doing does not work for the past 8 years, you have to switch it up and try something different.
Yeah.
She has to put herself in a different setting to where someone can see her, someone can approach her, someone can want to date her,
Yeah.
or like, or vice versa. She needs to try to find somewhere where she, can approach a man to see if she can have a conversation with them to potentially date each other. But understand that being an introvert and wanting to date is not a situation that adds up, that doesn't, that not always all the time always work for someone who's trying to get married. You
Yeah.
have to try new things and switch it up as far as being social. Now, I'm not saying that you need to go, you have to go to places where there are people,
Yeah.
like-minded people who got some common sense about wanting to get married. And you have to figure that out as far as where you need to go. But
Yeah.
currently, what she's doing is not working.
Right. That is true. You have been communicating. I did want to another point that you had kind of hit on when you were saying how she has to get out. You certainly shouldn't have to beg your spouse to spend, time with you. So that's a red flag in my head that, maybe it is time to see people who would want to spend time with you and actively, explore the new community that you're in. I know you're saying you don't want to break up, but, again, as we go through these lists, and if these are things that you are not able to communicate with your spouse and happen to achieve with your spouse, then you certainly know that, this probably isn't the relationship for you. And 8.5 years is a long time. But Anyway, so the next part, after you have created a list of plan and outline that says, hey, these are the achievable goals that we need to achieve within this certain amount of time, give it a time limit, give it these details that need to be done by dates, so that then you can actually celebrate those moments when they come about. So say he does come back and say, hey, I want to go ahead and move in with you, I want to go ahead and try to make this work with you in the sense of getting my finances together. We working on this together because you're saying that you want to be with him. So he's not financially ready. You guys take the steps to get your finances together in a space where you guys can make moves, like moving in together, because that's a big one. You're 8.5 years in, you gotta make some type of moves within the relationship. And the only reason why I keep going back to trying to give ways that you can help is because you're saying that, you know, she's saying that she loves and adores him, and he's saying he loves and adores her. If she's able to express this, then I'm hoping that it's real and it's something that she really feels from him. So if this, and you know, maybe this isn't as bad, and maybe he is willing to be flexible with it, hopefully, but it's going to certainly require a lot more conversation, and probably not in the way of dishing out ultimatums, but more so in the way of setting goals and timelines and saying, hey, if we are able to achieve these goals within this amount of time frame, then I would know that, hey, you're serious and then I'm serious. Even if he's saying that, you know, I can't get married in particular, it will give you some level of comfort that's showing, hey, I'm still putting forth an effort to make these steps and moves within the relationship. Because if you don't see anything, then that, of course, is your another red flag that, hey, he's not trying to progress in this relationship and you got to get out. But regular communication will certainly help to make sure that you guys are progressing and hitting those targets that, hey, we're showing some type of improvement from 8.5 years that we can show for, not nothing to show for 8.5 years. So another one would be to track your progress. Of course, as you go along and you continue to track your progress, celebrate your successes together. So that means rekindling that relationship by going out and doing things that are going to bring you guys together and help you guys see, hey, we're completing goals together. We're celebrating these goals that we're completing together. And I can actually see us building a life together. If he is the type to procrastinate, this would help give him some motivation and see, like, hey, I did this, I completed this, and it felt good to do that. Sometimes men, I don't mean no harm, if he's still living at home with his, you know, parents, he seems like he, you know, has some growing up to do. Him and his brother, they're both unemployed, still living at home. They have some growing up to do. So a part of that is, if you're wanting to stay in this relationship, a part of that is you're probably going to have to initiate how to move forward in the relationship, because clearly he's not ready to take those big adult steps. But if you're wanting to do this with him, then you're going to have to take on that commitment and move it further along and say, hey, these are the things that we have to do if we're going to stay in this relationship. If you adore me the way you say you do, if you, you know, all that other great stuff, this is how he'll show for it, in my opinion. You got anything?
No, I
Pretty
mean,
much easy.
mine is just the end. I mean,
Yeah,
I mean, because
right.
I don't have a lot of faith in this relationship, to be honest with you. Just
Yeah.
the fact that you all are in it for 8.5 years and nobody's married, or and he's not trying to make a conscious effort other than you. You can't be in a
Yeah.
relationship by yourself. I don't condone trying to be in a relationship in which one person is trying to make it work. And this lady has already lost 8.5 years of her life
Right.
dealing with somebody in which she probably, one, didn't pay attention and was so naive to the red flags, and she just wanted this guy. And also, two, he didn't want to be with her, and he showed all these red flags of such.
Yeah.
And you can't be but so naive
Yep.
and think that you can make this work. I think
Yeah.
that she knows the answer to this, but she's herself don't want to back out of this relationship. I don't think he has a problem with it, to be honest with you,
Of course
because
not. He's winning.
he primarily chose his mom and his family over her.
Yeah.
That's the thing, because when you get into a marriage and a relationship, you choose your spouse over your family. That's the
Yep.
bottom line. It is what it is.
Yeah.
That's what goes on. So, you know, your family comes second, and your spouse and your wife, your husband comes first. That's your new family.
Yeah.
So, that's pretty much my advice to her, is to try something else. Go do something else. It's not working out for you. You may
Yeah.
even marry this man and realize that we got more problems than what we had for the past 8.5 years. You're now moving in with this guy, and you may realize that, hey, I forced this man to marry me, and and we're not enjoying the situation. Now, good job not having children
Yeah.
and trying to raise your children up in this type of setting, this type of household. Good job not doing that, because that would only create more trauma for you, your family, and your children.
Yeah.
I think you should cut your losses and go and find someone else. Someone else. You yourself. My advice is you yourself need to write down 3 qualities that you need in a man, and see if you can find somebody that fit at least 2 of those, given the fact that you're 30 years old. And for women, you all know that as you approach 35, the age of 35, you are more susceptible to pregnancy issues, complications, in which you may ultimately lose your life trying to have children. So you need to make that a priority, ma'am. If you want to have children, you need to put yourself first and try to find a man who shares the same goals that you do. Now, I understand that this man that you're dating is around the same age as you. Now, you may need to date a man who's older than you. Please, whatever you can do, do not date a younger man, because that younger man more than likely is going to do the same thing that this guy's been doing to you.
Yeah.
For the simple fact that he's not going to be serious about having a family with you. Now, this guy that you're currently talking with may have some issues about being a man, and showing his masculinity, being the fact that you make more money than he do. So what does that mean? You need to find a man that possibly makes more money than you do, or has a drive and inspired and motivated to work more than this guy did, in order to raise that family or start that family, or find the things that you need that you've been missing for the past 8.5 years. Or maybe it's the fact that you make so much money that it's hard for you to find a man, or whatever the case may be. I don't know.
No, I think she's just been wrapped up in him for 8.5 years.
Right. But my whole thing is like, why though? Why you couldn't find someone else? Or I forgot she's an introvert.
And
So
she loves him.
she stumbled across this guy. Oh yeah, but love don't pay the, what they say, love don't pay the bills.
Well,
Love-
and her, I think she craved love, because when she said, I want the
Yeah, but ma'am, you need to love yourself first.
yeah, to want somebody. That's the first thing. Yeah, I just
You
want his
don't-
time and commitment. I don't
You
want
love
his
this
money.
guy so much that you don't know what self-love is, and also too what love looks like.
Yeah, yep. That's a good one. You lost love for yourself within it, because you're not getting what you need.
Right. She's given out so much love that she's so blinded by it that she don't know that she's not receiving it.
Yeah.
Just spend it. You have a boyfriend, you have a long-term boyfriend relationship for 8.5 years. I do not condone those.
No.
I do not. You both don't have, for 8.5 years, you've been putting up with each other in a relationship that you don't have no obligations to each other once and at all. You don't.
Yeah.
That's the reason why he's helping out his mom, and his family
Right.
is primary, and you're secondary or last, or you're not an afterthought in his mind of him wanting to be with you, or he's not inspired to actually want to go out and get into a career where he can help raise a family with you. So the worst thing you can do is have a child by this man. That will cause even more problems. And the second thing, I think that it was a good idea that you did give these ultimatums, but since you gave these ultimatums, are you waiting for an answer? And how long are you waiting for an answer?
Because he gave her the answer.
Right. Okay. So he responded.
Yeah. So I mean, you gotta
Right. So therefore, she needs to take those answers for what they are and then move on.
Yeah.
He's saying it's too much or whatever the case may be. He's not financially ready. And then what's the last one? I'm being unreasonable because we're great together and I simply don't understand his love language. Yeah, that's just a cop out. What does that mean? I don't know. That makes no sense to me.
Well, I guess she doesn't understand how to talk, like come talk with him, communicate with him, get through to him. How he doesn't receive love
No,
in
that's
the way that
BS.
she's giving it. So yeah, I
BS.
know, but that's just
What he's saying is that I
what.
don't want to love you for real. And I don't want to marry you for real.
Right. Yeah, because you were 8.5 years. Ma'am, as a wife, as a woman who knew I wanted to be a wife from a very, very, very young age, there is no way you waste your time that long. 8.5 years, 3 years max. And 3 years is pushing it to me. Well, for no commitment. But dude, you did that almost 3 times more than the recommended.
We should have
period.
titled this women don't wait too long to get married or leave a relationship, because that's what's going on here, is that a lot of women do suffer this way. To be honest with you, I've heard this before, I've seen this before, heard this before, multiple relationships in which people have this relationship to where it's they're together but not married.
Yeah.
They're not even a common law marriage situation. These people don't even live together.
Live together. That's what I'm saying. Like no progression within the relationship at all.
You know,
like you
and I
stay
know
there.
I know people personally close to me who were in relationships for 10 years and not married.
But
they
at least live together.
right. The majority of the time they live together though.
Yeah.
You know, the family. I have family that did that. And it's not an uncommon thing. But ultimately what happens is that if someone gets sick, if someone health fades, if someone is no longer able to take care of themselves, and then ultimately they pass away, you're going to have to fight in order to get all of those things from the state and try to prove that you are the next of kin that's supposed to get this stuff. You're not going to get anything.
Or that you lived in that house and
right.
You got right
Precisely.
to live in that house.
You all people don't think about that.
Yeah.
At least sign some sort of living will to show that the person that you're with, you care and love them.
Yeah.
And that this was the person, my main woman, my number one.
Right.
You know, at least give them that dignity, that respect. But in this case, there isn't any.
Yeah.
So, you know, ma'am, you need to love yourself first, prioritize yourself. And then, like I said, you need to write down those characteristics, create some sort of affirmation, solicitation of the man that you want, and then go out there, be social, and try to find him. Because you're not going to find him watching television. You're not going to find him being at home and being an introvert. You actually have to get yourself out there. And then also be comfortable with the fact that that man that you're looking for may not look like the man that you have in your head. He may not be that way. He may not be the same skin color, may not be the same height. He may not be the same financial standing. But the fact of the matter is that there is someone out there who's looking for a wife, who's looking for someone to be with.
And is ready to actually step up to the plate and do what needs to
precisely,
be done for that. Yeah.
Precisely.
Because this guy hasn't even tried that.
Precisely. But then again, there's not a lot of people or women out there that will consider that. That their husband may not be 6'6" and tall, dark, and handsome. He might be your height or a little bit taller than you are, and then also too, he may not drive a fancy car. He may not be a doctor, a lawyer, or a basketball player, football player, what have you. He may just be a bus driver or a garbage man or a janitor or whatever the case may be. But then again, you do have love.
Regular blue collar guys.
Those are regular blue collar.
Yeah.
The white collar is office
white
jobs.
Job. Yeah. Yeah,
blue
collar like utilities or white collar, like office jobs and stuff like that. Yeah.
But that's the thing. You just have to have realistic expectations in what you're able to in what you're looking for. Realistic expectations in what you're looking for, so that you will be open to the person that comes across your path and have that conversation with you. They may not
Yeah.
always look like what you want them to.
I just think about when she said that she just wants his time and commitment. So if those are the two main things that she's
Then
looking,
what?
time and commitment, within 8.5 years, you need to be,
She
the
wa-
next man needs to give you that.
Okay, well then the thing is this. Then to be honest with you, that is what he's getting from her.
No, that's not commitment. To me, that's not commitment. There's
What
no,
is he? Is he seeing someone else? She never said that he was seeing anyone else.
just because you are committed to talking to only to me doesn't mean like commitment. To me, commitment means like it has to be like some type
No, I know
of,
what commitment is. Commitment means that you're the only person that I'm dealing with, and vice versa.
and I'm looking to establish like a relationship with that, like I'm committed to go through life with, not just like, because when you want a relationship, you don't want to just say, oh, we're committed just because we're not gonna be talking to each other, but the whole relationship could still be stagnant if y'all ain't going nowhere, doing nothing, or making goals like to move
Evidently,
forward.
that's not what she want to do. She just wants somebody to spend time with and then commit with. That's
Right.
it.
And then that's again why I said
Her
those are the two
priorities are
things that,
messed
yeah,
up.
those are the two things that
Because
you
that's not really
mentioned,
what
and
she wants
yeah.
at all. She wants a husband. She wants a husband that lives with her.
Right.
And that's
maybe
what she should have said in the letter.
Right. And maybe even consider the fact that you do probably want a man who would provide, because then he could financially wouldn't have that financial excuse that he
That's
does.
why I
Like,
said she needs to go back and write down the at least
Yeah.
3 characteristics of
I
what
would
she
do more
wanted in
than
a
that, yeah.
husband. You know, all
Yeah.
this indecisiveness and all this, you know, these broad remarks of what she wants in a man are not going to get her there. It's not going to get her mentally prepared for a man when he comes across that path, because she's going to be so you know hard up on this guy who she's dealing with.
On the bright side, I will say one thing, that the universe is beautiful in the sense of, if you can show and prove that already, you have been quite a woman, it seems, to this man for 8.5 years, to where you have shown at least some level of commitment to him and showing him your ability to be a wife in a way to him. That's a great thing. So you never know the timing to take to universe to align you with somebody that is actually looking for the same things that you were looking for. If you actually sit down and write them out like my husband suggested, it could happen fairly quick, especially because you have actively been practicing the vibration of being a wife, sadly, to a man who isn't your husband. But that's what it takes sometimes to really build yourself and knowing how to be a wife and how to support a man. Because I mean, you've done it to the wrong man, but that's okay, I think, because I think the right man would have reciprocated and given you that same energy to where you feel comfortable, that comfort that you speak on. You feel comfort, you feel loved, you feel protected, provided for, and all those other things that I'm sure you want, like many, mostly all women want. So, yeah, if you just really, I think that's a important point, to sit down and write these things out of what you really want into a man, and see if this man is hitting these lists, the things on your list. If he's not, then hey, certainly go ahead and move on. Don't waste any more time on this. Also, seek professional help. That's also the last one that always pops in my head, is reach out to someone to really give you that third party perspective and that help to really help you navigate and come up with the strategy of moving forward, because that's super important. And also therapy, consider therapy, especially if you are feeling some type of trauma from this, whether that's just disappointment or hurt, or I mean, loss. Hey, this is time and you've put a lot into this. So that's okay. Those are valid feelings to have. And it's important that you talk about them and work through them with somebody. So certainly consider therapy for yourself as you process through this time. Of course, me and my husband are available at wifeconomics.com/schedule a consultation. If you are looking for ways that you can actually communicate this in this relationship, identify root problems, or, simply just come up with a strategy on how you're going to move forward within your life, we are certainly available for that. But, you know, all relationships require some type of work. So it was important that I wanted to show how, if you are in a stagnant relationship with some promise, you can actively move it forward by, establishing plans. First, we had having a serious conversation, asking those questions, those deep questions that set clear goals and objectives for the relationship, coming up with a relationship plan that helps you guys really strategize. And then after you've had that, you outline the timeline that it's going to take for you to achieve those goals and when you need them done. You assign your tasks, your responsibilities, and you communicate regularly throughout it so that you can monitor your progress as you're moving along and talk about, hey, we're now starting to move and I'm happy about this. And of course, you celebrate your wins as you go along and you progress and move throughout your relationship, because that's going to help you see how far you've come along and really be excited for that. Again, full disclosure, only do these things if the spouse is actively helping you do these things. So if you don't see any of this help going along, the energy is not being reciprocated, it's time to stop doing that. So, I always hate saying that because I know women really want love and I really want women to have love, and
Well,
men
I mean, the
too,
thing is that don't stop doing this. This type
Yeah.
of cycle needs to stop too, of people dealing with each other for
Yeah.
decades and without any commitments, because that doesn't contribute to the marriage rates. And also too, it doesn't. Yeah, right. Like I said, it doesn't help with increasing marriage rates.
Yeah.
You, if anything, you are preventing an increase in marriage rates because you're dealing with people who don't want to marry you. So you all need to, people who are in these relationships need to watch our older videos that talk about the signs, the green lights, where someone is interested in you and want to marry you. That is one of the most important things that they need to look at, and stop being naive about the fact that they're in a relationship with somebody that doesn't want to be in a relationship with them. That's just the bottom line. Because you're missing out. You're missing out on the opportunity of somebody coming along that really wants to entertain you and to grow a relationship with you.
Yeah.
So don't do that.
Yeah, 8.5 years. Whew. I can't get over that. But this is a good question nonetheless.
Yep. Thank you all for coming out tonight. We really appreciate it. If you all have any comments, questions, please feel free to always ask those, even during the show.
Yeah.
Thank you all for coming out. Peace.
Peace.